me, it is the Cyber Warrior. This is Cyber Warrior Studios, and I know you're all here for another amazing episode of Security Happy Hour. And yes, I got a big show planned. We got a lot of big things going on and some amazing guests. Some you've seen before, some you haven't. So it's going to be an amazing show. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, and super chats will always take precedence during the live chat for questions. So, just so you're aware. Otherwise, enjoy the show. Take care, and I'll be right back. And I'm back. See, it was quick. It's like 10 seconds. It doesn't take that long. You'll be all right. Anywho, look, it's another amazing episode of Security Happy Hour. First and foremost, I would like to thank our guests, Nathalie and August, for joining me. And we do have one more joining once he gets done troubleshooting whatever issues he may be having. To get us started, August, you've never been on the show before, so why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is August. I currently work in information security with a specialty in incident response for an unnamed company. I think that's the end of my intro.
We're gonna have to work on that.
Quite a bit. How you doing?
Doing good. I'm doing good over here.
So we are waiting for Hollis, and I'm sure he's going to join us shortly. So to start, before we get into the primary topic, which is going to be leaders in cyber or leadership in cyber, depending on which platform you look at, because, you know, titles and character length. Why don't you, in August, tell us about the new show coming out?
Yeah, so because I used to run a SOC, surprise, surprise. So when I ran SOC, I actually came across this happening quite a bit with our entry-level talent, where we would have, we had some people that would come in that they were, at one point they were very junior, and then as they came up through the ranks, they thought that they were still junior to an extent, but like once you hit an engineer level or higher, like you're now looked up to by a lot of people in the company, all the newbies kind of coming in. Once you've been at a company for about a year, you become a leader, and they didn't realize that. So they were kind of like very short with a lot of people. And it took me, like, as a leader to recognize it and say, hey, we can't talk to entry level talent that way, because we're never going to be able to retain them if you do. Think about, and I actually, the one kid that did this, I was like, you know, this one coworker of ours, I was like, think about when you were first hired. If so-and-so said that to you when you were first hired, would you still be working here today? And he was like, oh my God, I never thought of it that way. So it's just a matter of them not realizing that they are leadership at a certain level. You don't have to be management to be leadership. But leadership is very important in the field, and it's very important to retain some of the top tier talent out there.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the big things for me, you know, you also got to know your audience. So depending on where you work, depending on who's around you and the personalities around you, you can get away with saying certain things and they won't get mad at you. They'll take it with, you know, either a grain of salt or with respect or whatever the case may be. Because let's be honest, everybody knows me. I talk shit. That's just what I do. All right. Especially at work. We have fun. And I talk shit on my boss on a regular basis. And he talks shit back. It's kind of how we operate. Then again, that's the military mindset. But, you know, again, if you are saying certain things, there's issues. So, you know, dealing with juniors, especially breaking in, can always be, you got to kind of toe the line and figure out what to say and what not to say. August, what has been your experience with leadership so far in cyber?
Mine's a little bit briefer than y'all's, considering I have just recently broke in the grand scheme of things, but a lot of it was when I first started at Quantum Security, before I'm in the role that I'm at now. It was almost a brand new SOC, so there wasn't a lot of processes and procedures for training the analysts, including myself, because right when I started, I was, you know, bottom of the tier, but about 6 months later, we picked up a few people around my level, not quite at the same, and a few interns that were escalating tickets to me, and it's almost like they were scared to mess up or ask questions, and that's kind of where this comes in, developing processes and procedures for training your junior analysts and mentoring them, because even once you're in 10 years, you still need a mentor, right? Everybody needs mentors. And it's just not saying there aren't already people doing that, but I feel like there's a gap between a lot of the mid-level and higher level talent just because it's so hard to get in entry level. So that's kind of why I'm here, to provide a bit newer perspective, considering that I would still almost consider myself entry level until I hit about 3 years.
Right. Well, I mean, if you look at a lot of the entry level jobs, it is 0 to 3 years, ain't it?
Yep, and that's
Or
something
1 to
that
3,
people
depending.
yeah, it's really what it is. And I think I'm right over I'm a little over 2 years now. I mean, that being said, I am taking escalation still where I'm at, but that's just how it falls. Small teams, small security. That's how it works.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the, from a junior's perspective, it's always good to have that insight because, leaders a lot of time, depending on your organization, they'll be like, oh, give us feedback, talk to us, open door policy. Me and Nathalie, and I don't know about you, August, but I'm sure me and Nathalie heard that a lot in the military. Open door policy. It ain't going to change shit, right? You go in, you talk to them, you tell them what's wrong, and they're like, yeah, okay, I got you. Nothing changes. They act the exact same way, and it stays the same. Nothing ever changes. And you'll see that in some organizations. So that's one of the things that I try to bring to the table with my team, and I know my buddy does the exact same thing, where those conversations that we have in one-on-ones, we take it to heart, and we're like, okay, so I need to fix this. And I tell my teams that all the time. If I need to fix something, you have to tell me, because if you don't tell me, I can't fix what I don't know.
Right.
And that's been my issue with a lot of things. Like if somebody doesn't tell me what I did wrong and you just like quit talking to me, I don't know what I did wrong. So I can't adjust or fix or change anything. But before we go any further, finally, his troubleshooting is done and Hollis has arrived. How you doing, Hollis?
Woohoo!
All right, now I can't hear you.
I can't hear you.
Maybe. Where's it at?
It's funny when the IT guy can't fix his own mic.
I do apologize. I was in the middle of searching through. We had some issues with OSPF getting across a VPLS. So in troubleshooting that, right, it took a little bit of time. And it's completely my fault, right? So hands up.
No, it's always DNS. Blame DNS. Anyone in networking knows that. It's always DNS. Jeez.
I do apologize. Yeah.
As we're getting into it, why don't you give us a little rundown on who you are? Like I said, we got a lot of conversation to go through. We're going to talk about leadership in cyber. We already started, but I'd like to get your viewpoint kind of on who you are, what's your background, and what your career goals and or what you're looking forward to going forward.
Yeah, so of course, my name's Hollis. I've been in IT about 7 or so years. I've kind of wore a lot of hats. I've been help desk, I've been system administration, I've been in cyber, and I've been in networking. Currently, I do a lot of VoIP issues and anything with WAN or anything around routing, like Layer 3. I do a lot of mentoring to my juniors, and in that, right, what I'm really looking forward to in the future is I hopefully want to get into architecting, being a senior network analyst. I've really just got my eyes on designing and developing my own solutions to businesses' problems. That's my hope and my kind of aspiration. And as I go forward, I'm hoping to either lead people more forward into that or in security networks. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Networking, I started in networking and help desk, did a little bit of both, and just kind of fell out of love with networking. I still understand it. It just got way too complicated for me. I'm like, now we're getting into too many things that I need to know, that I don't want to know, that I don't care about. I'm done. I'm going to stick to operating systems. I'm good at this. This is where I thrive. So, what has been your experience so far with like the leadership within IT and cybersecurity? Have you noticed any trends? Have you noticed anything, both pros and cons of what you've seen throughout the industry in your career so far?
Yeah, so a big part of my career, I've had a few leaders so far that have been amazing, right? So like Nathalie was a fantastic leader. I've also got my current boss right now, his name's Leo. Both of those exemplified the kind of things that I drive for and that I live for is like, I don't expect anyone to fully just be in this all the time, right? I want people to be able to look at this and take things as they come and then take breaks, right? I want people to be able to actually live their lives and do things with themselves. So like, for example, Nathalie and my boss at the moment, it's when work gets done, as long as work gets done and if the work is done in a good manner and as it's there, you're fine, right? But in other positions, right, I've had a couple of what I would say is a little bit of micromanagement. And so whether that's an issue on myself or an issue on the team around them that they've had previously, I think in some aspects there's been some bosses in IT that's they don't come from a engineer background or they don't come from an analyst background, and they more come from like an MBA or some type of business background. And so they don't get the real aspect of those individuals that actually perform the operations and that actually perform the things around them. And so that they don't have that look into it and that ability to actually manage the people around them. I'm not saying that they're bad at it, but I'm saying that they're what I wouldn't call exactly fit. I believe Nathalie's like a perfect fit for a leader in IT and in management, just because she has that technical aspect and background, and she can understand the issues that come forth to a person, and actually know like, hey, this is what's going to take their time and what's going to lead them in a different way. So.
Not
Yeah,
that he's
definitely.
sucking up
And
or
again,
anything.
you touched on some things. One of the big things is micromanagement. And one of the biggest issues I have seen within this space when it comes to, just working in general is still this idea of 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or whatever the case may be. And you talk to a lot of people that have been in this space for a while, especially those that research, how the mind works and how you can work best within, a certain time frame. You only get out of any person, according to research and books, and I'm not the one that did the research, I just overheard this or was told this, 4 hours. 4 hours is really solid work that you get from any person. After that, they need to take a break, and usually it's 4 or more hours, and then they can go back at it. So this idea that we need to be in front of our computers like all day, all morning, all afternoon until 5 o'clock just needs to go out the window, especially in this space when if you're delivering, especially if you're in like networking or cybersecurity, like, I don't know, anything, engineering, even as an analyst, although SOC analyst, that gets a little tricky because you need to have a backup and alternate and things like that. You're 24/7 usually, but you need to be able to understand that if work gets delivered, it gets delivered. And as long as it's quality, that's what matters. It's not, oh, it took him 3 weeks to do this, so it's a shitty product because it's late. No, did he meet the deadline? Or did she meet the deadline? Or whatever. Like, that's what's important. And is it quality work? Not, oh, they were checking out early every day. Okay, was the work done for the day? Like, if something's not due for 3 weeks, I don't count on someone being here 8 to 5 every single day. Sorry, just not the way shit works. Because unless you have work to do, see ya. I don't care. As long as your work for the day is done, I don't care. And that's how I think a lot more people need to get into it, just because this idea in our industry of, oh, you got to be at a computer for 8 hours a day. No, most people are spent. Like, I get off of work and I'm like, I'm going to bed. I need a nap. I can't do this no more. So
Yeah, because it's
rough.
mentally draining. That's what a lot of people don't realize is that like it's mentally taxing. Like we're not doing a laborious job because we sit at a desk
Right.
all day, but it's still laborious on our brains. So you need those breaks to give yourself that pocket of time to go do something else, get your brain off of it. And sometimes your greatest ideas come when you're taking those like 10-minute breaks, 20-minute breaks, whatever it is,
Oh, definitely. And you said it right. We're not physical labor. And by all means, I can't do physical labor anymore. So, I respect those that do, and I think they have a hard job. I think that the physical demands that come from it are ridiculous, and the hours they work are something I would never want to do. But we all choose what we do in life. This is the route I chose to go, and this is the route we all chose to go. So it's a different field. And I think people try to conflate, oh, well, I have to do this, so you should have to do it. It doesn't work that way. That is never the way you want to go about something, because if we thought, oh, well, it was always this way, so it should be this way, and we applied that to today, nothing would ever be secure. Because even the internet and networks weren't designed with security in mind. They were designed to do the blinky lights blink. Yes. Okay, we're good. We're good.
Hollis just chases the blinky lights.
That's what it was. I mean, and you look at these conferences, and this is the problem with some of your CISOs and CIOs and directors that have, your MBAs. They go there, they hear about the new hot shit, and it's like, oh, blinky lights blink and it's powerful. Cool, I want to buy that. Let's go. We're gonna buy this and we're gonna implement it with no team to actually implement it.
A new buzzword.
Right? When AI came out and ML, and they were like, oh yeah, it's machine learning. Are you sure? Oh yeah, it's AI. Are you sure? Because we're looking at different concepts. And 9 times out of 10 is behavioral analytics. That's what it is. It's behavioral analytics. Is the user that is currently logged in doing something they don't normally do? Yes, behavioral analytics. And it takes at least a month to really get a solid baseline off of what a behavior is.
Yep. If not longer, depending on how many devices that you're monitoring and all that too. Like it really could take, 6 months for some companies, depending on their size.
Yeah. And there's a lot of good products out there for it. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think, and I wish, I don't see him in chat. I wish Sarn AR was here, Infinite and Probability AI, because he loves his data science and his numbers. I would really like to know if any EDR, any software out there right now is truly using AI or ML. Like, truly, by definition, using AI or ML. I've seen a lot of behavioral analytics.
Truly is. I think it's using pieces of it to do some of the legwork, but it's not truly using machine learning and AI to do all the work. Like it's just it's implementing parts of it, but it's not implementing all of it, so.
Right, because it's looking at actions. It's looking at what's going on. So if somebody pivots to a different computer, then it's, oh, this is against the norm. This isn't, it's roles and use cases and things like that. But in my eyes, AI is learning. That's the point to artificial intelligence. AI can learn. And so it's not learning that that's bad. You've programmed it to know that that's bad. So it's not AI. It's already been programmed to know that this action is bad. And so that's when I look at it, I'm like, is it really learning, or is it just programmed to know that X, Y, and Z is bad? Because if it knows that, then it's not learning. You programmed it to know that. So
and I think that in looking at generative AI, the big thing that really comes into mind when that topic comes up is that they haven't had the time to actually train this AI on the business that we're currently in, right? We're not transitioning from like I'm in sawmills to chemical plants. Like there's different attack vectors. And so how are you going to get this one product that has all of this information unless you've been in here, right? And you have all this company's private data. So unless that's happening, I don't really see a true AI coming in and being put in these products at this moment.
I think if anything, Microsoft would be the first one to do it, integrate it with Defender, because they harvest data like almost nobody else does.
That's a lie. Google and Amazon harvest data more than anybody. Well, I don't know. Meta gives them a run for their money. So we'll see. But before we go on, because I forgot to do it, hold on. There it is. All right, cool. I had to do the official sound for outside security happy hour. I forgot to do it earlier. But I do. So do you think this is going to be a problem going forward for even leaders? Because you see a lot of leadership. They're the ones that are responsible for acquiring software and hardware, right? They're the decision makers, and they're the ones that talk to their bosses and say, hey, we need this amount of money for this product because of this reason. So he is here. Yes, I love it. I'm gonna put that up in a second, AR. Do you think that, you know, lacking that knowledge of what these things are and, you know, the actual, do you think they're getting hooked on the buzzwords without actually researching what they are?
When you're going to those conferences, absolutely. Like, because everybody's like, oh, you want your t-shirt? Okay, just give us your name and your phone number. And then, like, next thing you know, you come back from a conference and you have like 50 people hitting you up wanting to have a meeting scheduled with you or whatnot. Like, and it's like some leaders don't do a good job of saying, like, hey, this isn't for us right now. We don't have the time to do this. We don't have the money. We don't have the resources to sit here and evaluate your tool. And maybe we don't even have the need for this tool to begin with. So, like, a lot of leaders really, really are terrible at doing that. And then there are some leaders that are like, you know, we don't need this. I'll give you my information for the free shirt. And then, you know, just black hole the email or whatnot. But some of them are like, I've had leaders before that were even above me that they'd come back from a conference and I'd have a list of 20 different tools to go look at. And I'm like, I don't have time to look at these tools. You going to hire 10 more people for me? Like, I don't have the time for this. Yeah. Like, are you going to train them too? Like, what are you talking about? 20 tools? Like, no.
So my buddy did chime in. He is here. That is what that is what is currently the issue with AI and cyber, a lack of data. And I can't disagree with that, because that's what it takes for something to learn, is ingesting all this data. So I think this is where we look at an issue of leaders buy something that says AI ML or behavioral analytics. That's the only one that when it says behavioral analytics that I truly buy into. That's when I'm like, okay, you know your shit. I'm actually going to listen to you. When you start spewing AI, I'm like, okay, how's it learning? Well, it learns all of the users. Okay, see, that's behavioral analytics. That's not AI. AI is a completely different beast. Like, it can learn everything, not just user behavior. So I think this is where they're convoluting terms and just throwing buzzwords out there. But I don't know if it's necessarily the company. I think it's marketing. I think the marketing is like somebody came out and said, oh yeah, mine does AI. So now every product in the world has to say they do AI or ML or whatever the next buzzword is. And I think it's more marketing than anything.
Yeah, and I mean, to drive that forward, right? And a lot of these products and things that are kind of brought forward to me in networking, right? Like, of course, there's products like Account that are really good for Wi-Fi analysis. In seeing some of those products, like even they're integrating and saying now that, oh yeah, we have AI to determine how this AP is going to react here, this AP is going to react here, and I'm like, okay, that's great, but how did you pull the data of how is this AP going to send a signal and it's going to react against this kind of glass or glass that's curved this way or this way? And I'm like, I don't really believe you have all this data for that.
Right. So, and Brad said it, and he's right. I've heard this said before. Most AI currently used in security products are not actually AI, but machine learning, because it's two different concepts. And I think he's absolutely right. Most people that say AI are machine learning. So I want to talk about something even more important now. Actually, that's a lie. I can't say it's more important, but I think it's more important. And that is a new podcast coming out. I've heard rumors. There's a new cybersecurity podcast coming out. I don't know where. I don't know who told me or sent me logos. But, you know, I've heard stories that there's something new coming down the line in like 2 weeks. I'm just saying.
What's it called again? Week and a half, man. Week and a half. It's called Re-Correlated Podcast, and it will be launching July 31st at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time, 4:30 Central Standard Time. You can do the math for the other ones.
And what's it about? So what is going to be the premise behind this podcast?
The premise behind it is leadership in cyber and leadership in IT, and how to face different struggles that, first off, identifying what's the difference between leadership, management, and mentorship, and then also like really delving into how to face certain issues that, like, I've been a leader for a lot of years, but I faced when I was in IT, cyber security, and all that. I faced a lot of different issues that I never faced before when I was in the military. And I obviously I faced different issues then that I didn't face, that I don't have to face now, which I'm grateful for. But like, I had to face a lot of different issues that were weird, and like when I was a new manager, I had nobody to go to. Like, I was just making it up as I was going. Everybody's like, yeah, this is great, and I'm like, cool, good, because I'm just making it up, man. Like, I'd logic my way through it, but like I didn't have anybody that's like, oh yeah, well, here's some ideas of some like type of statistics that you might want to keep on your mind, or what kind of metrics you might want to have at all times on your team, that kind of stuff. Really using certain business like using business need to sell a tool that you might need, or to gain a tool that you might need to your arsenal of tools. Not that you're going to gain 50 of them that way, but like maybe one or two select ones if you don't have any tools or something like that, or an upgrade to a tool. And using the business need to actually sell it, using compliance to sell it because compliance is a business need, and kind of really speaks to that, using the risk and knowing how to kind of curb your argument that way. And really like what leaders should be paying attention to that's different in cyber or IT than what is going on in other, like in retail leadership, that kind of ordeal. So I think these conversations are going to be really great. And we kind of already talked about like where it all started at, like how the idea of it all came about. But
yeah, and I think that's awesome. And again, this is something that me and you have talked about, and I'm so happy to see that you're doing this and where it's going to go. Because I think there's always a different perspective, and I think the more people we have interviewing and talking to others, the more voices we can get heard, the more people can get out there and be seen and be listened to. Because in this industry, we see so many people that go to the known, right? So the Dave Kennedys of the world, Philip Wiley's, whatever. And I love them to death. I think they're great people. I've had, Philip on my show. But there's always more people, and I think we need more to get more voices heard, to get differing opinions, and actually see how things, can play out.
Yeah.
Hollis, actually, you know what? I haven't heard from August in a while. August has been way too quiet. August, how'd you get dragged into this podcast? I'm just going to ask.
Nathalie bowled me into it. Pretty
she bullied
much.
You? Yeah, I could see that.
Just typical Army picking on Air Force. That's really what happened. No, I think Hollis let me know before Nathalie texted me about it. And I'll be honest, up front I was a little hesitant about it, but I really liked both of their enthusiasm, and that's what brought me here. I do think it's good to have a little bit, because both of them are a lot more experienced than I am, right? Like, I'm the oldest out of us three, but I'm also the least experienced, at least in this field. And our field changes really fast, right? So it's really hard for juniors to keep up. And, I'm 2 years in, and I still honestly have no idea what I'm doing like 75% of the time. And I've been blessed enough with my leadership that I've been guided even when I'm feeling that imposter syndrome real bad. And it's just, this is a way for me to give back, right? Like to help guide someone that's kind of probably in my shoes or a little bit earlier in their career, just because no one's alone here, right? Like it's all a teamwork. Obviously we all contribute. All of us need to work together, right? We don't have the time for the infighting and the bickering that a lot of careers do. We don't have the time for that, because criminals aren't doing that. They're doing everything they can to break into an organization, and they're not held by what we are. So that's kind of why I'm here. It's my way to give back.
So I mean, look, hackers don't care how many certifications you have. They don't care what your blackout dates are. They don't care what your management window, your maintenance windows are. They
I commented
zero
I
fucks.
commented on someone that said something similar to that on LinkedIn. While I do agree with you that criminals or black hats don't need that, right? But look at it this way: it's a lot easier to break a window than it is to replace one or secure a window or cut a hole penetration testing in that window without breaking it. And that's where I think the fields differ, right? Like you have to learn how to properly secure something versus just I'm just going to brute force this, or I'm going to do this 0 day and break everything. And I do think we need more entry level talent, not based on certifications, but that's an entirely different discussion. Then we could talk about that for weeks. I'm sure everyone has input for that.
Oh, that's a multi-year conversation. I think, Natalie, how many times do we talk about that? I swear, almost every episode that comes up.
Yeah. I really hate certifications. They are good to an extent, but they're not good at building the base foundational knowledge because a lot of people don't study for them properly. So they just cram for the test, and then after the test, they forget everything that was on it, and then they forget all the materials. So they haven't actually built that base foundation. And I think that certification mills tend to do that a lot. And just like regular certifications, like requiring a certification for an entry-level job will cause somebody to just rush and study for it and pass the certification. And now they have it for 3 years. But do they really have that knowledge?
Well, and that's been my biggest thing. And Hollis, we'll touch on you in a second because I want to get your feedback on the podcast. But to me, when it comes to certifications, right, I have more letters after my name than a lot of people, except for DR. I'm not a doctor. I don't like school that much. But you see a lot of these baseline certifications that people take test dumps and things like that. So they never actually know the material. So a little bit of background. Before I got into cybersecurity as a job or a career, I was studying it. I was on Linux. I was on Backtrack. I was breaking into things. I was running my labs. I was doing all this stuff. So that by the time I got into it as an official career field in the Army, when I went through all my SANS training, I knew every tool and knew how to use every tool they taught us. I knew Nmap backwards and forwards at that time. I don't anymore. It keeps changing and they keep removing options from me, and I got to download older versions. But I knew Nmap, I knew Metasploit, I knew all these things. And so when I went through the course, people were like, "How do you know all this?" Well, because while you're watching TV or going out and doing other things, hi, Hollis's, I don't know, girlfriend, wife, something.
Hollis's better half. The one that puts up with his shenanigans.
Sister, I don't know.
He is from Alabama.
He just had to bring it up, didn't he?
I did. Any chance I get, I'm going to jab you about it.
Man, good Lord. Yeah. So
Don't be mean to Liz.
Yeah.
That was a Hollis, not Liz. Liz is the same.
But yeah, I knew it. I knew it because I had been studying it for years. Literally from the time I found out about cracking Wi-Fi up until I got the SANS, I had been studying all of this shit. And so people are like, "Oh, how'd you know this?" Because while you're watching Scrubs, I'm spending 2 hours in front of a computer actually learning. And I knew it all. I didn't know it all, but I knew all of what I was going through at that time because it was GSEC, GCIH, GCED. I forget what the hacking one is without a certification. And then Python came out, but it was GPYC is what it became. And so I'd worked on all that. So I knew it. I've been working on it for years. So that's what made those tests. I didn't need a test dump. I didn't need someone to give me the answers. I could sit in front of it and do it. And you can word the questions any which way you wanted to, but there was no fail for me. I wasn't gonna fail. Whereas Security Plus, A Plus, Net Plus, you can go online and find the answers to everything. It's a completely different beast.
On the flip side of that, though, the people that do that usually get caught out in interviews, right? Like,
oh, I called people out in the military for that shit.
Like, as soon as you ask someone something that's outside of the norm of something that would be on the test versus something that if they'd actually studied the book or the reading materials, they would, you can immediately almost tell who is bullshitting and who's not, right?
Yeah, I had someone in the military. I asked her what port 443 was. I don't know. I said, okay, what's RAM? I don't know. Then why the hell are you an NCO working the help desk? Yeah, that didn't go over well. I didn't care. I was like, yeah, you have no business being here at all. You need to go, lose your rank, and lose everything because you're a cheating son of a bitch and you lied.
It's a cheating scandal that happened across multiple branches. That answers were given out for a lot of things like that, not just.
Well, the DoD ruined CompTIA. The DoD absolutely ruined CompTIA because then they came out with these boot camps that literally just taught the answers to the test. That was their whole premise. And the DoD bought it. And so I had someone that if you had a certain voucher code, because when I was in the Guard, they did a boot camp, all right? And they gave vouchers for these boot camps so you can go take the test. If you had a different voucher than the one that was provided by the boot camp, you got a completely different test. Meaning, you didn't get the answers. You had to pass it on your own fucking knowledge. And these people failed. So, again, the DoD ruined it. Just like, well, we're not going to get into it. But anyways, Hollis, how'd you get sucked into the podcast?
Yeah, so Nathalie originally hit me up with the idea, and so it happened months ago. She was like, "Hey, would you ever take part in helping me with the podcast?" And so me, like, not knowing what helping meant, I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll go for it." And then months later, she was like, "So co-host, right?" And I was like, "I mean, I can speak, but like." And then once we got August into it, right? Because she had asked me, she was like, "Hey, do you know anyone else?" And me and August are super close. August has been kind of like a brother to me, and kind of watching him come up in the industry, it's kind of driven this further for me because him and I just exchange banter back and forth all the time, as well as Nathalie's.
Sure, it's only banter. He's like a brother to you. You live in Alabama. I'm sure it's just banter. Sure, that's
Damn it.
Nothing more.
You walked us right into that one.
But with all that, right? The first thing I did when August was like first starting out, I bought him a book. I was like, "Hey, I think you'd love this book, and I think you would have a good time with this." And ever since then, watching him grow, and then seeing him getting into lifting, like I've gotten into lifting. For not the Alabama joke here, but I love the dude, right? Like he's great.
You're allowed to love him.
As well as Nathalie helped me grow into like the positions that I've gotten into. They're both fantastic people, and I'm glad to actually be a part of this and being able to hear what they think more and get more out of them with this.
And there's nothing wrong with that because it's awesome. Because I got, my sister Amanda in chat, and yes, I call her my sister, who's going through and actually just about finishing the Google cybersecurity course. And it was one of those things where I saw what she did. I knew who she was and what she was capable of. And I said, you need to do this. And so my next goal is to get her a job at like the FBI or something like that, because her investigative skills, bar none, blow a lot of people's out of the water. I'm sorry. Y'all ain't got nothing on her. It'll be done tonight. Of course it'll be done tonight. And I got a book to send you to now. Damn it. All right. I got so much. Look, I help people. That's what I do. So she's like, "Oh, it'll be done." Yeah. Well, all right, time to move on. So I got a book that somebody didn't claim that I'm gonna send to her. But yeah, I think it's one of those things. We got to help each other out. We got to lift each other up. And this is the thing about leaders, right? There's a difference between a leader and a manager. A leader is going to bring you up with them. A leader is going to mentor you. A leader is going to, guide you. A manager is just going to tell you what to do. A manager is going to sit there and not actually. I look at it this way: in the Army, we had NCOs that told people what to do and sat on their ass, and then you had NCOs that actually did the job while you were doing it. Because I'm not going to have you do something, and I'm not willing to do it. No, if you're doing it, I'm doing it. Those be the rules. This is the way, and that's how I always lived my life. And so I hated when people would be like, "Oh, go do this." All right, cool, I got you. And then they'd go sit on their ass in the AC and not do anything. Literally nothing. Like, I've seen these NCOs. I've seen a lot of NCOs legitimately do nothing but play on their phone. That was all they did. And I'm like, so we're out here busting our ass and you're in there on your phone. Cool, bet. And I didn't want to be that. That is not the type of leader I wanted to be. And so it's hard because I see a lot of managers. They want to manage, they don't want to lead. Two completely different things. And I think in this industry, we need more leaders and less managers. Because the leaders bring people up with them. Managers, a lot of times, are afraid to lose their job or afraid someone's going to take over their job. So they hold people down because they're afraid of what's going to happen. They're not looking.
Well, and not only that, sometimes, like, what I've seen, and, like, you can be a leader and a manager at the same time. You can still hold a management title and still be a leader and use leadership tactics and leadership techniques to help you grow as a manager, right? But
because the manager title doesn't go away. There's no such. You're not going to find, unless you're a lead, like in a tech spot, you're not going to find a position of authority with leader in it. It's manager. I am a practice manager.
Yep.
But I'm a leader. I'm not going to sit there and have my people do something that I'm not willing to do. And let's be honest, I'm not willing to do a lot, but I still do it because if they got to do it, fuck, I got to do it too. But you're not wrong, Nat. It's very. You can be both, but it's very hard to be both. You're only both entitled. Well, one's entitled, the other one's in how you approach your team.
Yeah, so, one's in philosophy much more, and your practical side of you.
Yeah.
What you're actually doing. Yeah.
So I look at it. I do. I will always look at leaders and managers differently. A manager doesn't want to help. And so directors, and there's a lot of directors, there's a reason there's only certain people I work for. I don't go into companies blind anymore. Played that game. I don't do it. I have a guy that I work for now. I love working for him. I've worked for him at 2 other companies. I will continue, should he ever decide for some obscure reason to leave, I will follow this man. Because he will always look out for his people. He is not in a position to do any hands-on work anymore. Like, he's way above that level. At a director and above level, you kind of don't do that shit. But the way he looks out for his people and make sure they are taken care of, bar none above anybody I've worked with. Bar none.
Hey, that's one of our podcast episode topics.
Yeah, one of those people that I will follow him wherever he goes. Now, I've yelled at him, and I got to address Misa's comment here in a second. I've actually called him, because I've had his cell phone number for years. I've called him like, dude, you fucking left me. Like, literally, you brought me in and then left me. What are you doing? But it's one of those things where I respect his drive and his passion, what he's capable of. And so when he leaves, he will literally call you and be like, hey, you want a job? It's going to pay you like 80 grand more. And you're like, yeah, bet, I'm there. See ya.
I'm out. I'm coming right now.
Right. All right. So Misha did say this. I disagree with you, Cyber Warrior Studios. I think it's because you haven't met many managers who are willing to be leaders. To be fair, most of my management experience came from the military. In the civilian world, I've worked at 1, 2, 3, 4 different places now. I'm on my 4th place since I retired out of the Army in 2017. So past 5 years, I'm on my fourth job. Actually, has it been 5 years? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 years. Past 6 years, I'm on my fourth job. Um, one shitty manager, two great leaders. Because well, at the second job, I had an amazing manager / leader, whatever you want to call him. He was the manager of all of us, but he led. He was willing to do the work if need be. He was on the calls with me at 3 o'clock in the morning whenever we were handling IR. The current boss I have now, he was my director at the second job I had, was my boss at the third job I had. Shit happens. And so he was great when he was there. I had someone else. He was a piece of shit. I hope he's watching. He'll know who he is. And then
I hope you see this.
oh, dude, if he's watching, because he's claimed he's watched my shit. I hope he does. I don't fucking care. He fired me for no fucking reason. Got the job I had. The longest job I had was 2.5 years. My boss there was amazing. And then, I mean, there were things me and him talked about, issues within the organization, but as an organization, as him as a boss, absolutely amazing. And then I went back to who I worked for twice before. And so, because I love working for him, and I'm like, yeah. And I know when things like bonuses come down the line, he'll be like, you better pay my people. You're paying them now. Like, they're getting paid. And like, see, this is why I love you. This is why we work great together. Because at the same time, he's the one that's like, I'm gonna make a deal and you're gonna do it. And I'm like, bet, let's figure it out. We'll find a motherfucking way. We're gonna make this work. Let's make it work.
For sure. And like, I'd like to take a second to caveat off of that, right? Like, in saying that there's managers that don't want to become leaders, I would also suggest to you that there's analysts and people like myself that don't want to become a leader. There's people that don't actually want that opportunity, and they're just forced into it. So I will tell you that I don't think a manager can be made into a leader, and I will say that, yes, they have to want it if they want that. But a lot of times that people that are put into management are generally put there, in my eyes, in this situation, because they're just they're moved there, right? Not whether they're a good person or a good leader or whatever. They're put there.
That's their next move. That's the only move they have within the organization to make more money.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to, is money. Organizations need to give you a place to level up technically, even if they have to create a rule. When I was at my last organization, I kept going back and forth. I didn't know if I wanted to be in management. I didn't know if I wanted to deal with the headache. But then finally I got to a point where I was like, I'm tired of doing all the technical work all the time. I love motivating people. I love mentoring people. I love helping others. But actually dealing with clients trying to get the technical work done is a fucking headache that I don't want to deal with on a regular basis. And so when I finally decided that, and me and my buddy talked, and he goes, I got a job for you. Bet. I'm there. Like, I'll go run a team for you, and this is what we're going to... Money. Let's go. I'm all about it. Have fun. Like, and again, nothing against where I previously worked. I loved working for him, but it's just, A, more money, and B, it was a different role. And it was something I wasn't going to be able to do, because where I previously worked, we were so small that even managers or leaders or whatever title you wanted to fucking give them were still doing all the work. And I didn't want to get promoted to then have to deal with people and still do all the work. Like, it just made no sense. And so I finally got into a position where I can ease off the workload. Like, I'm only, my bonus is like, I only got to put in 20 hours, I think, or something like that, of time versus actual consultants. Or no, I'm 20% billable. That's what it is. And I'm like, I'd rather have that than 50 or 70, because now I can actually do these meetings that require me to sell shit.
To add on to what y'all are saying too, I think that us all being veterans, leading veterans as a civilian is probably not the easiest thing to do. So that could also have something to do with it. And I'm not downplaying or talking down to civilians either. It's just that veterans are a different breed. honesty is a really big thing for us, and upfrontness, and not everyone can handle how brash veterans are, especially like civilian people that have never had to work with or for or above veterans before. It's a little bit of a different game for us than it is for someone else.
Well, and
Oh,
you have
yeah.
to think of it too, is that like when we were training to go to, at least I was, and I know Derek, you were, Hollis and August, I'm not sure when you guys were in, but like we were training for war, right? So like you had to trust your leadership to, regardless of what your job was, you had to trust your leadership to do what was necessary so that you could make it home, right? Like, and make the right decisions versus like, so we bring that kind of mentality to the civilian sector now, and they're like, well, we're not training for war. Like, we're not going nowhere. Like, we are chair one Rangers here.
I think that even if you're not training for war, because I was Air Force, y'all can make your jokes. That's fine. I'm expecting
Hey,
it at
I was
some
in the
point.
Air National Guard before I went active duty Army.
Like,
So
I worked
I
on
was
look,
a
I'm gonna take
paralegal,
comfort
man.
over the shit I went through on active duty any day of the week. Give me my 5-star hotels. I will straight take them bitches.
I worked on nukes. Like, we don't really deploy, right? Like, where am I going to deploy as a nuke troop? Nowhere. So
You're
but
going to
it's
deploy
still-
to another state to go
Yeah.
to TDY.
my TDY was Anderson Air Force Base, Guam. It's pretty tough, let me tell you.
Oh, that's
It was
a
really
hard
tough.
one, man.
It
My
was
guard
terrible.
unit
It was
used to
awful.
deploy to there all the time.
But taking all that aside, the military mindset is a lot different, and that's something I've had to adjust to, is lowering my expectations for a lot of people outside of the military thing, just because you can't expect everyone to perform at the same level that someone that's a veteran would.
So I got 2 questions here, and you're not wrong. Veterans are a different breed. They're always going to be a different breed, but they don't work everywhere. You can't have veterans in certain positions, not
can't.
because they're incapable, just because certain ones drank the Kool-Aid way too much, and when you become like Uber Marine or Uber Army, and your whole personality is ooh rah, I jump out of planes, or I make things go boom boom. I'm sorry, you're not going to fit into a lot of places. Like,
Well,
I'm
on the-
sorry, but that's the way it is.
On the flip side of that-
I never jumped out of planes. I was broken as it is, and I never wanted to. It's a perfectly good airplane. I don't need to be jumping out of it. Just not my style. But hey, that's me. I love the Air Force. It was my first branch before they said, hey, we're not cross-training prior service into active duty.
Yeah.
I said, okay, fuck you, I'm going to the Army.
There's also lazy veterans too, though. So not every veteran is going to come out and be a workhorse, right? Like, I know some people that I've worked with that have a bad taste in their mouth because veterans expect to ride the reputation of I'm a veteran, I've done my time, right? So I guess I should add in that too. There's also I don't know what the Army called them. We called them shitbags in the Air Force, but
we got a few terms for them. There's quite a few we can come up with.
I think we
Although,
also called them rocks.
yeah, none of the terms we came up with are probably politically correct. We're just gonna say there were quite a few, and I don't give a damn. Like, that's what they were. Like, shitbag, lazy, piece of shit, rock, dumb as a rock. I can come up with a few more. Mostly they were the ones that went and cleaned the rocks, flipped them over, cleaned them again, and then moved them, and then cleaned them again, and then moved
go
them
mop
again.
the grass.
Cut the grass with some scissors. Man, I wish they still did that. That'd be great. But anywho, I digress. We have a question here from Andrea. Do you think leaders are born or developed within their environments? Hollis, you go first.
Yeah, so when I look at a person that's going into a leadership position, I think people can be trained for it. I think people can learn that and adapt to it. But I do think there are some people that are just born with that inhibition. There are some people that are just born with that ability to take a situation, take people around them, and say, hey, we have this issue, we have this problem. Can you walk with me? And I think that's what differentiates a leader from a manager, is having, like Derek's other type of videos, is the walk with me situation. being able to take people around you and move them forward with you. I think that's something that, like I said, some people are kind of born with it. It's something some people can learn. It's kind of a harder trait to learn. And it's something that I've explained to my current boss is that while I love technology, he wanted me to kind of move more forward into leadership. I don't see technology like I see people. I see people as more of a challenge. I see them as, I could learn them and I can learn how they are and what they do and like move them forward with me. But, there's some people that don't want to walk the same way as me. There's some people that don't want to walk in the same pace as me. And I think that's what really separates a leader and a manager. But being born or developed with it, I'd really give it a 50-50, right? I think it's a thing where there are people, like I said, that are born with it, and there's other people that, they pick it up, they take the task, and they say, you know what, I may be a good analyst, but I can be good with people. But it's a tough line, and it's a tough line to ride. But it's a line that at some point I'll have to face. But right now I keep pushing the line away.
Eventually you'll get there. So, Nathalie, what do you think? Are leaders born or are they developed within their environments?
Okay, so I think it's a little bit of both. Some people are natural born leaders, and you cannot take it away from them. They will find their way into leadership every time without even trying it, and they're the ones that they constantly are finding their way into leadership positions. They haven't tried to find their way into a leadership position, but the next thing they know, they're just promoted into a leadership position. But you can learn different ways to lead, and it takes a little bit longer to develop it from their environment. But I think that I've developed my leadership style from seeing great leadership and also seeing really bad leadership. I've seen some really terrible leaders, and I was like, that is not what I want to be when I become a leader. So take note of this now, self, because and I would write it down. I'd be like, don't do this, because that was what I wanted to be the furthest from when I became a leader. So I've always said I am a byproduct of really great leadership and really poor leadership, and that's kind of how I've developed my leadership style. But you can also take somebody who has no natural, who doesn't really have the natural instincts, and still develop them if you work with them enough and you really get them to understand why we're doing the things that we're doing. You can still develop into a leadership or into a leader role without having that natural instinct. It's just a lot easier when you do have that natural instinct to lead others.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. There's a lot of differences. It's just, it varies. And I'll give my take on it here in a minute, but I want to let August go. Go ahead, August.
I think it's both. Like Nathalie said, I do think there are people that are born for it. That's just how they are, and how they're going to find their way is that, right? But on the flip side of that, I do think it can be taught by circumstances or by happenstance, right? Something happens and they have to, and they either learn or fail. The third part of that is I think that the people that, I'm going to pick on Hollis a little bit here. Hollis said he doesn't want to step into a leadership role, right? And I think that's what would make him a good leadership role, because he doesn't want that role. And he would set an example, or a good example, not just an example, by being the leader that he would have hoped he had when he was younger, right? And I think anybody can, maybe not anybody, but I think most people can recognize what are good and what are bad leadership traits. And especially in cyber or information security, whatever you want to call it, it's a small field. And obviously a lot of us are either neurodivergent or introverted. I'm not. I'm extroverted. But I think that takes a certain kind of person and to lead someone like that, because you have to bring someone at least enough out of their shell to be able to instruct them and guide them. So I think that's a roundabout way to answer the question.
Nathalie knows all about me bringing people out of their shell. How many people have I had on this show that are like, I don't want to talk, I don't know, and I'm like, fuck you, you're coming on.
And also, Hollis says he doesn't want to be in leadership, but I know for a fact that Hollis is a great leader.
Called it.
Well, here's the thing.
Got him.
But Austin said it right.
Who's Austin?
Oh, my bad, dude. I ain't got my name.
Yes,
up in front of me, homie.
it
Damn it!
You're
It's not as
good.
bad as it isn't as bad as what I do to Manawa. She
You're fine. I'm just giving you a
kills me
hard
for
time.
butchering her name. But August said it right. It's absolute power corrupts absolutely. So if you don't want power, if you don't want to be in charge, you usually make the best leader. Because you don't want that power, you were good enough to do the job that your team, the people around you, your community chose to put you in that role. And so you will do things to make sure that those under you are taken care of. Whereas if you choose, or if that is your absolute goal, is to be in power and have power and make decisions, you'll burn a lot of bridges and hurt a lot of people just to get there. Versus the people that don't want it. They're not burning bridges. They're not trying to hurt people. And once they get there, they want to continue to keep their hands on keyboard and do the work and mentor others. So it's those that don't necessarily want it that make the best leaders. It's just the way it works. Sorry, Hollis, but you're going to end up in leadership solely because you're going to make a good leader. It's going to happen.
I'll keep fighting it. I'll fight it till the end.
I'm going to send your boss a LinkedIn message tomorrow.
Hey, Hollis, you're being promoted.
Especially because you doxed him.
August is going to create a sock puppet account now of Austin Similar is going to be the name, and it's going to be.
I'm just so glad it wasn't me that called him Austin, because I usually do. I usually will in text and be like, Austin.
I don't know where that came from. August, Austin. I don't know. They sound alike. I had the all right.
Nah, you're good, man. It happens all the time.
So we got Sergeant AR here, Infinite Probability AI. Heard the need for cybersecurity analysts is due to lack of retention. What can a leader do to improve retention, and what would cause you specifically to stay loyal to a company? August, go first.
So this actually happened to me pretty recently. I'm not going to name where I work or where I turned down a role, but both Hollis and Nat know. I turned down a role that was probably, the compensation was quite significantly higher than I'm making now. But the reason that I did that is because the company that I'm at is paying for SANS once a year. We're also paying for, I also have access to immersive labs. I'm not micromanaged. My bosses recognize when we do good work. They also voice that recognition to not just our team, but to higher leadership. That is one of the things. I forgot everything I just said. SANS, immersive labs.
August, are you sure you've been sober this long? Because you forgot just now.
Shh. Man, I completely lost my train of thought. So training is one of them. Recognition is one of them. Appropriate compensation is one, right? Like, 'cause to an extent, once you're at 3 to 4 years, your salary is going to be fairly similar across most companies. Obviously, some are going to pay more than the others. But realistically, like, being heard and being recognized are two major things. And a boss asking if you need anything, which sounds trivial, right? But that hasn't happened to me at the two companies that I've worked at in security. I've been more than happy with both that I worked at. But when I worked at Help Desk before, it wasn't like that at all. It was more of, you're doing your job, that's cool.
Oh, you got the experience of a grunt or a soldier. You know.
Yep.
We know all about that.
Yep.
But
Nathalie, I'm gonna let Nathalie go next. Hollis, no, you're last, Hollis. You showed up last, you're going last.
He just called you out, man. Man, I would say, as a leader, you can value your people. If you value your people and you let them know that you value them, you value their time, not just during work, but also like don't ask them to work outside of their working hours unless it's absolutely necessary. You value them to get them the training. You value them to where you're actually shouting them out. You're valuing them. There's a lot of different ways that you can show that you value your people. And some people, they don't want the shout out because that's not their thing. Like I'm that person. Like I hate being praised. I hate it because I get embarrassed and I'm like, I don't even know what to say. I'm awkward. So, but you can value
I know
people
why,
in
but
different
we'll
ways.
talk later.
But if you value your people and you let they know that like come hell or high water, I don't care if this business says like spews this they're like, oh, we want you as a leader to spew this company line. I won't do it. I will go to my people and say what I'm supposed to tell you is X, Y, and Z. We can't really talk about what I really think, but this is what I'm supposed to tell you, and my people will know like, oh, okay. Luckily, I don't get asked to do that anymore. But like when it comes down to it, I care about my people enough that I put their needs above everything else. Within reason. Obviously, we're not bankrupting companies over here or anything like that. But like,
Well, yeah.
you know, then you need to take 2 hours to go do something. Go do it. Go. I'll see you in 2 hours. And Hollis used to work after hours sometimes, and I'd be like, Hollis, what are you doing online? Why are you here?
My role on PTO, this is my role anytime someone takes PTO. I better not see your ass log on to Teams or send an email or anything. If you take PTO and I see your ass show up, I'm going to make you take more PTO. Dude, no. Take your time off. That is your time, not the company's. Go. And I got yelled at recently because I was on PTO and my buddy, he runs the MSS, the operations side. He goes, what are you doing online? Dude, I was just checking. What are you doing online? Son of a bitch. Fine. All right. Log off. Leave me alone.
That's the hardest thing as a leader is to practice what you preach, but it's very important.
Oh, I try. I'm going to let Hollis go. I'll give my 2 cents. Hollis, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, so in terms of what August and Nathalie are saying, I think they're both very accurate in saying that the person needs to feel valued. Being as I feel like I'm going to be the forever analyst or the forever operations guy, I fully believe in the fact that as long as I have a boss or a manager or whatever you want to call them at this point, as long as they value my work and they value the time that I put in, I mean, if I'm getting compensated, and I'll even quote unquote fairly, and I feel like I'm being compensated appropriately, I'll follow it against the earth, right? Like if you give me this task, this project, and you're like, you know what, great job, you're doing great, or like, you know, take this time that you need or whatever, like I'm here for you, right? Like me and you, we can talk, right? We can do it all, right? Like I'll build the world for you at this point. So, I mean, I fully believe that the person needs to just be valued. And then, you know, just the ultimate, like, respect of it all. And I just, there's people that show it, and those people, I'll say that, for lack of better terms, I'll value them to the end of the world, right? Like, well, we can walk across hot coals at this point, right? I'll be there.
Yeah, definitely. That's so here's the thing. The way I see it is like this. Lack of retention for a security analyst is definitely on the leadership. Because leadership will implement tools that will make things happen, because one of the common occurrences with a security analyst is going to be like log overload, right? You're getting overloaded with logs and alerts and everything else, and you just can't process it all, and it's a lot of noise, and you're trying to sort through it. And your boss, your leader, isn't giving you the time to actually take care of yourself and understand that I need to step the fuck away. I need to get away from this computer. I need to quit staring at the screen because something's not configured right, and it's not my job to configure it. So as a security analyst, I think that's one of the biggest issues is people have been promoted or gotten into positions too early and don't know how to configure things the right way. Or companies have been like, oh yeah, we're going to buy this and not get ProServe, and we're going to put our security engineering team on it that has never touched this product, doesn't know how to work with this product, and they're going to be the ones to configure it. So now you got analysts looking at this going, I'm out, deuces. See you later. So we talk a lot about that, but then you all are talking about recognition and stuff. Look, it wasn't until I got out of the Army that I found recognition mattered. And it was because in the Army, no one ever got it, right? In the Army, it was like, oh, you get an AAM. Cool. You were an E6, so you get the lowest medal possible. This is what you get as an award for doing your job in PCSing and or deploying. First job I got, I was there 6 months and I left. Couldn't take it. They were a pain in my ass. I bounced. Second job I have 2 awards right now sitting on my bookshelf. One of them is for my second company I work for out of the Army. I actually got a Security Engineer of the Year award for that company. And I did not realize how much that would mean to me until it happened. Like, I had never gotten that recognition, never been known to be someone that actually knew his shit or was able to actually deliver. And so when it happened, a switch flipped. And it was like, holy crap, this company means more to me now because they're recognizing what I am doing. And it made me believe more in the leadership above me and the things like that. So I don't believe in loyalty to a company. I believe in loyalty to leadership. And again, I talked about this earlier. The boss I have now, I will follow to any company he goes to. But I don't believe in company loyalty, because if he leaves, that means there's something wrong. And it's to that I hold loyalty to, because he always looks out for his people. So if he leaves, that means they're fucking over their people. And that's when I'm like, see ya, I'm out. So for me, recognition, I still love it. I think it's great, but I'm loyal to a person, not to a company. And that's the big difference in this industry versus the old days when you had mines and GM and all that other stuff where they were on, assembly lines. You were loyal to a company because you got a pension and da-da-da. Pensions don't exist for us. Your 401k transfers, so you're not going to get a pension. Pensions don't exist. We're going to go where the money is, and I'm going to go where my leader goes. The person that's going to take care of me, that's where I'm going to go to. Because I know he's going to pay me. I know he's going to take care of me. I know if he leaves, that's for good reason. Because he talks to leadership. And he's above me. So, okay, I'm out. See ya. I'm going to go follow him.
Yeah, just don't tell them that you're going to start a meadery when you leave. Thanks, Hollis.
There you go.
My friend.
All right. Oh, I got a good question here. And I'll run this around the table because I'm going to say depends. That's my answer right away, and I'll give reason for that. But what do you guys think is fair pay band for a junior security analyst? And as Nathalie, you're the one in leadership, just like myself, I'll let you go first.
I would say it depends on what part of security you're in. And
it's
also,
a junior security analyst. So
yeah,
we'll
but
say
is
in
it
a stock
analyst, or are you doing GRC security analyst?
Never heard of one of those. That'd be a new one on me.
Like a GRC analyst is still a junior security analyst, depending. If we're talking about like a SOC analyst, I mean, it also depends on where you're located at, and if what skills you actually bring to the table and what transferable skills you have as a junior. If you can bring a strong argument, I mean, I've seen juniors start out with decent salaries, and I've seen juniors that started out with less than okay salaries, like salaries I was just like, I'm not okay with that. That's not okay.
So as far as the pay band, though, what would you say? Like, as far as your pay range, what would you put on a junior security analyst? And again, to your point, depends on experience, depends on knowledge, depends on a lot of things. But what range would you put on a junior analyst?
I'd say 50 to 70,000 a year.
Okay, I can see that. And I get your point. There's different roles, different positions, different areas of expertise.
Yeah, like if you're on call, that should be a little bit higher, probably.
Yeah. What about you, August? What have you seen, and what do you think?
I think fair and reality are two different things in this aspect, right? Because the reality of the situation is that the junior market is very oversaturated, and it also depends on your transferable skills. So reality, I would go reality, I would say between 45 to 75, right? And that's market dependent, that's your background dependent, that's where you're at, that's remote, that's on site, right? Now, fair, realistically, a living wage, I would say between 55 and 80. But that also falls back on where you're at. If you're remote, if you're on site, if you're commuting to work. When I was interviewing for SOC analyst positions, it was anywhere from as low as 23 an hour to up to about 70,000. And that was in Dallas, Fort Worth area. So the reality of the situation is employers are going to drive that price right now, and that's probably not the nicest thing to say, but the market for entry-level talent is very flooded, and I say that as entry-level talent, right? Because I still don't have 3 years, so I'm still entry-level. Yeah, I guess that probably answers it in a roundabout long way, but it's a tough situation for entry-level analysts right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Hollis, what about you, man?
Yeah, so I'll give my perspective as one of the lowest paying states. Really, I'd honestly say you're probably looking at as low as a help desk, right? If you're a junior SOC analyst or a junior security analyst, you're coming in with about as much experience as an entry-level help desk analyst. At least that's my assumption, right? It's probably a bad assumption, or it could be a bad assumption, but I would say it could be anywhere from $17 an hour, because when I've interviewed before for a junior SOC analyst in Alabama here, specifically in Bruton, if you want to look up the town, it was $17 an hour. And then I've seen it go as high as like $80,000 a year for salary. So it's fully it depends, and we're in an employer-driven market at the moment. So it's up in the air, honestly. I would say argue for yourself and try and get something livable. Do what I did when I saw $17 an hour. I said, no, I gotta go. Like, I can't pay rent. I don't want to look at logs for $17 an hour. I mean, I don't have enough time or enough like patience. So it depends. And so I'm saying $17 an hour to $80,000 a year.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I'm gonna hit my point on this. Again, very much depending on where you live. It's gonna go by cost of living in your area, and again, it also depends on the cost of living in the places you're applying to. One of the things I will make known, I looked at Google. Google came to B-Sides Pittsburgh. They sponsored it 1 year. I think it was last year, the year before. I mean, they sponsored it this year. I didn't see a table though, but I talked to them, and they came to me and they said, "Hey, yeah, well, you can work remotely now." And I said, "Cool. Do I get California salary?" They said, "No." I said, "Then I'm not going to work for you. I'm not going to work for a company that I know can afford $300,000 a year for someone that lives in California, and you're only going to pay me X amount of dollars here in Pittsburgh." No, it's not going to happen. And they were like, "But no. See, I know you can afford this, because if somebody lives in California, you're going to pay this salary. So no, I know you pay based on where you live. I don't play that game. You're going to give me what I'm worth, which is what you see is worth in any other state." And so that's how I operate. And again, it's very dependent on the organization and state that you live in and that you're applying for. As a junior analyst, I will say this, and Hollis, I know you've seen it, but I will say, if you're getting paid the help desk salary for a junior analyst, somebody's screwing you over, because a help desk is supposed to be a starting point to get to that junior analyst role. So if you're making the same pay band, somebody is not willing to open the purse strings, and it's not a company worth working for. For me, in my eyes, no matter where you work, no matter where you live, I would say starting salary should be at least 60 to 70 grand a year. At least 60 to 70 grand a year. That's just me. I don't, some people may not agree with that, but starting out, security analyst, junior, I don't care what role you are, you have experience or you have some type of education and knowledge behind it that can carry you into that pay band. Now, if you come in saying, I know nothing about security and I know nothing about IT, you're not even getting hired. I'm sorry. You're just out. See ya. But I'll bring you in somewhere at the base salary of about 60 grand a year for a junior security analyst that's going to be looking at logs all day. I got no problem with that. I'll train you. I'll get you up to the point of 6 figures. But 60 grand a year, that's a great job for a security analyst. And that's no matter where you live, as far as single, in college, not in college. You work for me, 60 G's, yeah, you'll be all right. But we are, well, holy shit. Let's look at the time. Well over an hour. We're at an hour and a half. I got a bunch of questions here. Look, here's the way I want to run this. If you want questions answered, please send them to me, send them to Natalie, send them to anybody on LinkedIn, Discord, Twitter, Facebook. You know where to find me. Feel free to send me some Cash App with a question in it. I ain't against that. I will answer it for cash too. I need money. Look, I got a wife and 5 kids. I got a house to pay for. So, I'm all for money. But otherwise, look, we're going to go around the horn. Hollis, you were last to enter. I'll let you be the first one to answer this. Any advice you have for anybody breaking into cybersecurity?
Yeah, learn like you haven't learned before, right? Take the time and take the topics and, take the time that you have and appreciate the topics that are given to you. And then take that and apply it. Whether it's addressing an issue or like you learn like, hey, I can lock down an Active Directory account. Take it and apply it to real life. Take it, say like, hey, I'm going to lock down social media or something. Just make those applicable situations and continue to learn and grow, and you'll be golden.
August, go.
Don't do what everybody else is doing, just taking certifications to take them. By all means, take them, especially your CCNA and your Security Plus and your PNPT or OSCP or Security Blue Team 1. I think there's also Certified Cyber Defender. Take them, but expand on it, right? Don't just say, hey, I took this was awesome. You need to post something that's going to make you stand out, because getting into security as entry level is not all about what you know, right? Like, knowing what you know is great, but you need to get your name in front of people, because no one knows you exist until then, and it's developing a reputation because it's built on trust. I know there's more to say to that, but I feel like that's enough for the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Nat, on you.
Just don't give up. Just keep going. Like, when somebody says no, ignore it. If they, say no, any no is just a not right now, or this isn't the right time, or maybe this isn't the right company. It's not a permanent no. And don't ever take it as a permanent no. Like, I always say I was just too stupid to give up. So, and I eventually figured out how to get in. So, just don't give up and you'll eventually get there.
All right. So, I love it. You all are awesome. Check out Re-Correlated Podcast when it drops. Natalie, send me that. I will promote the shit out of it when the link and all that other stuff drops. And I'm also going to put it into the description of this on YouTube once it comes out. So send me some type of link. We'll get it out there, and we'll leave it in the description. Otherwise, look, I did get one question. I want to touch on this, me personally, because I've been doing a ton of shit. I know it's kind of like geared towards me. It's probably geared towards the rest of you also, but we're coming to the end of the show. Wired Celery, what steps do you take to disconnect from cybersecurity and have other interests in life? I will tell you this right now. It is shut off social media. Me personally, I am a big proponent of mental health. I am a big proponent of motivation, of cybersecurity, of you name it. This is what I do. I've been doing it for years. It's not going to change. I literally shut off social media at certain points in the day or the week or whatever the case may be, and I cut myself off completely. The reason being, because we need to do better about ourselves and our mental health. And so when you're constantly answering emails or Teams messages or Slack or Discord or Twitter or whatever the case may be, you are not stepping away from the machine. Disconnect, step away from the machine, get your ass outside, go meditate, go sit by a fire, go walk through the woods, go do what you need to do. And that is how you can succeed in this career field. Because if you don't, you're going to burn your ass out and you're not going to be in this career field very long. You will burn out in less than 2 years if all you do is this. Guaranteed, less than 2 years, you will burn out. And for anybody that tells me otherwise, I'll ask what the hell they're doing besides cybersecurity, and I guarantee you they give me other answers. They're gaming, they're spending time with family, they're cooking, they're doing something. If all you do is cybersecurity, you will burn out. Get outside, step away from technology. Best advice I can give anybody, get the fuck away. Get away for a few hours a day, maybe a whole weekend, a week, a year, whatever the case may be. Otherwise, look, hey, I love you all. You're all amazing. You're all my warriors. You're all my family. You all know this shit. You know the drill. Otherwise, look, hey, y'all take care. I will see you again next week for another amazing episode because you know I'm here every week and I don't go anywhere. This is what I do. I promote people like Nathalie, Hollis, August. Please check them out. Find them on LinkedIn. Find them everywhere. And if you would so very much like to support this channel, support this show, check the description in YouTube or LinkedIn. It's all there. And actually, it's on Facebook too. You can find all the ways to support this show, support me, and support what I do. Otherwise, take care. And I will see you all next week with another amazing episode of Security Happy Hour.